All right, we just spent some time talking about underglazes, and we toured the room and you got to see all of your color options. So today you are going from table to table, carrying your project with you to the color you want. So when you go to a table, make sure you're working on a messy mat and you are traveling with your project and you're traveling with your brushes, big one, small one. So there are water cups to wash your brushes at the tables. So you just want to make sure that you're using really good craftsmanship. That means you're washing your brush, taking your time. So I'm going to start just by showing you what some of these colors look like. This tannish color, glaze can be thick. It can be clumpy. So as I'm painting, I'm kind of just scooping up some of the glaze. And I want to make sure that I'm covering those textures. So you guys know at this point, when you paint clay, going back and forth doesn't always fill in the textures. You might have to use your brush in circles, and you know I have to say it, you might have to dab to get into all of those spots. So this is going to soak up fast. Your clay is so dry, it's like a sponge. So as I'm painting, these spots right here are dry already. Glaze is powdered glass. So as I rub this, it's going to feel powdery, chalky. That's normal. The glaze being thick is normal. So I would continue with this color on the body, and anytime I switch colors, I'm going to make sure my brush goes to the bottom of the water cup, whatever table I'm at. I'm going to rub it really well at the bottom. And I don't want my brush to be wet, so I'm going to squeeze out any extra water. So if I switch colors, like might look good with some red wings, I might switch brushes if I'm painting a smaller area. So the cool thing about the glazes is you can use multiple colors, and you can put colors on top of colors. And I'll show you what I mean by that. I'm covering up, I had a little bit of that tan color on the wings, so I'm covering it up with red, making sure I'm getting in all those spots. I am not going to paint this whole thing for you, but I do want to show you a couple other tricks. So I have this awesome red wing, right? Well, it would look cool, I think, if I put something else on it. So I'm going to wash this skinny brush really well. Squeeze out any water. And maybe I'm just going to add a little bit of dots or some darker texture and value in the wings. I could brush a little bit to give it some texture. I got some on here. What if this guy had some black polka dots? Maybe he's dirty. Maybe he has the chicken pox. So you can have a lot of fun with these glazes and use multiple colors. For the eyes, I would suggest putting a color down. So I think I'm going to give him like white around his eyes. And then I pushed his eyes in, so they are super tiny. If you feel like you need a super tiny brush, you can grab one from the sink area, or you can just try to use what you have. I'm wondering if I could even use the handle to kind of dot some circles in there. That's working pretty good too. So you can put colors on top of colors today. You can try to even mix them a little bit on your clay, not in the dishes. There's one final step to this project that you're going to have to come up to Mrs. Cleary's table for. So at Mrs. Cleary's table, we are actually going to be dipping, Mrs. Cleary will help you, our clay project into this bucket of glaze. So underglazes will not be shiny. You can see that this bird has a shine to it. Underglazes will be kind of dull and very powdery looking. So to protect our underglaze and give our clay some waterproofing and a shine, we're going to dip it into this bluish colored glaze. So your project has to be fairly dry. We want it to not be rubbing off on us, so you might have to wait a couple minutes. You could kind of clean up any areas you were working on while you were waiting. When we dip this, we're going to hold the feet, and Mrs. Cleary will dip it for you. Your bird is going to go into this underglaze, and looks like my bird's pretty big. We're going to get the glaze up around the edges, but we don't want the glaze on the bottom where it sits on the table. So I think I'll probably get a paintbrush here, but for my demo I'm using my fingers. So we don't want gobs of glaze where it sits on the table, because that's where it will get stuck in the kiln. So your bird, the colors will look like this, almost completely covered up. Can't really see the colors at all. As this bakes, this blue turns clear in the magic of the hot kiln, and all the colors will shine through. It's a pretty cool magical trick. Something chemical happens in that kiln at that high temperature, and this bluish color will become see-through, and your colors will become shiny. So once we have dipped it into the glaze, it will stay at Mrs. Cleary's table, and you will be taking these home in a couple weeks.